Hi, welcome back to Money Talks with Dad. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Corinne.
How's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah. What are we talking about today?
You tell me.
We're talking about inflation and interest rates.
Your favorite topic.
Dad, I have so many questions.
That's what this is for, right?
Okay, so one, for just all the silly gooses in the room, geese? I need an goosen. Let's define these terms first. Okay. Let's start just so basic.
Yes. Inflation. Obviously, whether you follow the economy or not, that became a very big topic, I don't know, the last 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And we all talk about it, but we don't really know what it is. And even people in my business don't understand. So inflation is just basically the rate of increase in prices. So that coffee or tea, I guess it is today because of your voice. So we apologize in advance to
Sorry, everybody.
Coughing, but
nice to hear that.
it is going around.
Yeah.
So that tea cost you how much today?
Honestly, too much. I don't know. I think it was like $5. It probably was like $4.50, something like that.
Okay.
Something ridiculous.
So, and I don't remember what it was, but it was probably, at some point when you worked at Starbucks.
Oh, that's true. I think it was actually $3.50 maybe.
So $3.50. So it's gone up by.
I could be wrong. Sorry, don't fact check me.
25%. And gosh, was it 10 years ago you worked at Starbucks?
That's kind of crazy that it's been 10 years, but yeah.
Kind of easy math. If it is 25%, this isn't exact, so all you nerds don't check me on this. It's about 2.5% inflation.
Wow, okay.
So every year on average, that price of tea has gone up 2.5%. So the inflation on a Starbucks tea was 2.5%.
That's okay. Okay, so that's what inflation is.
And that's the average.
But that is actually kind of crazy.
And what had people so upset before was it might have been $3 for 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then it jumped to $4.50. Right. And then people are like, that's, they feel that because instead of going up 2.5% per year, the inflation rate was maybe 12.5% in 1 year or 25% in 1 year. So that's, in general, everything goes up in price.
Why?
Okay.
Oh, sorry if that's the wrong question.
No. I'm trying.
He said.
I'm trying to think. Okay.
Like, why do things have to keep getting expensive?
Yeah. So we all took, had to take economics in some form or other in high school. I'm pretty sure every state.
Mr. Stewart. He did his best. He made it fun, but man, did I hate that class.
Yeah. And most people do. But the key thing that I always encourage people to take out of there is understanding supply and demand and what it does to prices.
Okay, yeah.
So supply would be how much tea is out there. Okay.
I mean, there's got to be a lot.
It is, but I don't know is tea grown? I feel really
it's leaves.
It's leaves.
Welcome to my side of the seats, Dad. It's leaves.
Yeah. Okay. So it grows.
Yeah.
Maybe we have increasing amount of tea leaves. I don't know. It's probably getting
maybe like growing the crops.
Yeah.
Farmers.
Which we're taking. Okay, so
that's gonna be more expensive, right?
So we're learning on the fly here.
Look at this.
So, unscripted. Can you guys tell? So, in general, especially in the United States, and I think all around the world, the population is growing.
Yes.
So we'll come back to that. That's the demand side.
Demand, population.
But we're talking about supply of tea. Because we're growing, we're picking up and taking up farmland to build houses.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
So there are less, probably, tea trees. Is it a tea tree? I don't know.
It's definitely a tea tree, Dad.
There's tea tree oil.
Dad, you're killing it.
We should have played this out.
This is my favorite episode immediately.
Okay. So tea trees, there's probably less tea trees. Yeah. So the supply is diminishing. It's going down because the population is growing.
All the tea tree forests have been cut down.
That's right. So by nature, because you have a smaller supply, the price will go up to kind of find that equal price.
Okay. Well, that's the thing with gas too, right?
Yes.
Okay, because like I remember like what was it like during COVID? Wasn't gas,
Gas
like
was like close to $1.
It was just like take it, please. We
Yeah.
have too much.
And why did we have too much?
Because nobody was going anywhere
Because we couldn't.
because of Rona.
Yeah. I'll stop there. That's exactly right. So,
Guys, I've learned something today.
There's two parts of that one because you just jumped into demand.
Oh,
Because I don't
I'm a
think.
quick learner.
I mean, I know there's a lot of like social media be like, "Oh, tea is good for you, tea," but I don't feel like the demand for tea is going up.
I feel like it's got to be stable.
It's probably
gotta be
pretty stable.
stable,
I mean,
yeah,
How many
stationary.
English people are there?
Dad.
It's like, but because the supply of tea went down, it's going to go up. But
Okay.
gas, you're talking about two things: supply and demand.
Okay.
So, the supply of gas.
Dad, now I'm going to be dumb.
No, you got this. You already brought it up.
Okay.
So the supply of gas stayed the same or went up. Actually, we showed charts in one of our political talks, and we don't want to get into politics today.
Yeah.
Algorithms, we are not talking politics. Please don't block
Stop
us.
saying the P word,
Okay,
Dad.
sorry. Courtney, cut that in post. We did not say the P word. This is not about that.
No.
But we showed charts that showed we kept producing more and more oil, which turned into gas. Mm-hmm. So the supply...
The gas trees, if you will.
The gas trees, yes. The supply of gas was generally going up.
Okay.
During COVID.
Oh, right, yeah.
But the demand basically shut down. If you weren't an essential worker...
Right.
Or... basically, I mean, we saw like roads were empty.
Yeah.
So because the demand came down, the market adjusts the price based on supply and demand. And so demand goes down, the price comes down because they want to sell it.
Right, yeah.
It's expensive to hold gas. They're not making any money and they're paying, to store it.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had to find the price in the market that met that.
Okay.
So then when
sense.
the economy opened back up, even though we were increasing supply at a normal steady rate, they couldn't just flip a trigger and be like, we want to double our supply
Okay, yeah.
of oil and gas.
Yeah.
Because it takes so long to get it out of the ground.
Right.
And you can't just sign a piece of paper and say, I demand there be more oil. It just doesn't work that way.
Trees take some time to grow.
They do. The oil trees take time to grow. And it's very expensive to start a new oil well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So the demand was supply was still going up. But then when they unlocked us in early 2021-ish, 22, whenever we got
it's been a few years.
Whenever the government was like, you know what, we can't keep people locked up forever.
Oh, right, yeah.
Go free.
Yeah.
And now we know some states were free the entire time.
Yeah.
Other states, like Virginia, was like half free.
Yeah, it was complicated.
Depending on where you lived. But anyways, when it unlocked in spring of 2021.
Right.
And everybody's like, woo! We're
Life's
going on
back.
vacation.
Yeah,
I'm going to
everything.
drive. I don't care if I drive the store 10 times a day. I am driving.
I'm going somewhere.
Yeah, I am getting out of this house.
Yeah.
So now demand skyrocketed.
Okay.
And there was only so much supply because they couldn't increase it.
Yeah.
So the prices said, all the producers are like,
yeah.
We don't have much supply and everybody wants our oil.
Yep.
So we are going to charge super high prices.
Yeah, it was nuts.
And so there you had, again, just like your tea, maybe it average 2.5%.
Right.
But gas went, from down near $1 when nobody was driving up to 4 something.
It was crazy, yeah.
Because they just did not have enough in the tanks because they could not produce enough to keep up.
Right.
They weren't just going to assume, hey, in a year from now, everybody's going to be buying gas. So we're going to start producing now.
Right.
They always wait until they see that demand. And then they're like, oh, shoot, we better up production.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what will inevitably happen with gas is then we'll have too much supply and it'll be above demand. And so remember those silly curves in economics where
I do, yeah, those silly things.
And
yes.
I had to help, I think, everybody in our house except Cody do
probably,
economics.
honestly.
And the curves are trying to find the balance.
Yeah.
And so they'll end up having too much supply and demand will be down here. So then you'll naturally see prices come down. That's deflation, by the way.
The opposite of inflation.
So it's a negative
English, son.
Negative price, right? Opposite of inflation. Deflation is rare overall.
That's a bummer.
It is a bummer. And so a lot of people think that one person can just change prices. And again, we are not talking about the P word. But what I've seen misused the last 6 or 8 years, or really my entire career, is overall, and again, keep this in mind, our population is growing.
Right.
Our natural resources are not growing, or they take a long time, like tea trees and oil trees.
Exactly.
So because of that, with the population in the world growing, there's more demand and less supply. So naturally, prices will always go up.
Okay.
You'll have spikes in that, but in general, the trend will be up.
Okay.
So there's always going to be some inflation.
Got it.
You're not likely going to see like a lot of stores who raise their prices. You know, McDonald's isn't going to be like, you know what? Our cost has gone down a little bit. So instead of $9 for a Big Mac, we're lowering it to $7.
Is it $9 for a Big Mac?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think it's $9, Dad.
I mean, is it Five Guys? Is like a $12 burger now or something?
Is it really? I don't go out enough.
I don't either. And I don't. Anyways, another topic. But
like their dollar meal would be a 50-cent meal. Is that a better?
Right. Which, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, now we're going kind of down, a rabbit hole, but the dollar menu started being a thing when I was in high school.
So 800 years
800 years. Back in the 1900s.
Back in the 19s?
And what fascinated me was for the longest time, McDonald's was able to squeeze out costs so that they could keep selling double cheeseburgers for $1.
There's a double cheeseburger on there? Dang.
But there was something that my whole family knew. I called it hidden inflation, but apparently I did not I was not creative enough because it became popular in the last couple of years. Shrinkflation.
Yeah.
So
I've heard of that.
What the companies did was they were like, well, people are going to get mad if we get rid of the dollar menu. So we're going to just give you a smaller double cheeseburger. Our bun's going to be smaller.
Yeah.
We're going to go to kiosks instead of having humans take your order.
Yeah.
Like they did everything possible to keep their dollar menu.
Right.
But overall, you were getting less food for the same price. So that's still technically inflation.
I remember your hidden inflation example that, like, to this day sticks with my brain is when you buy a bag of chips and you've got like a quarter of the bag is actually filled with chips and the rest is just air. Yeah. It's hidden inflation.
It is. Or the boxes of cereal, like the family size is like,
it's so little. Yeah.
Like, what family is this thing? This is like a serving.
This is, for real.
I mean, with teenage boys, it's like they sit down with that family size box and it's like.
That's a single serving box for those boys. Yeah.
Okay. So that's another form of inflation. Like, because, again, the population is growing, prices will generally go up.
Okay.
Even on, like, big ticket items like a car.
Yes.
You might get a higher quality thing, but remember, I think we talked about in one of the other episodes when you're like, I have $3,500.
Yeah.
That the rent money you paid us.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We charged you rent, but we knew you would not save money.
Never.
So we kept that money in an envelope and we're like, Creighton, we're tired of driving you at 4:30 to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Please go buy a car.
And
you said, done. We'll come home today with a car.
Coming home with a car.
And so that was, I don't even know what episode that was. 5, 4, I don't know. But you cannot find a car for $3,500 that's going to run.
Yeah, no. Thinking about that, no.
Yeah, so
it wouldn't be a good idea.
Cars have gone up in price. They've gotten better quality in some cases.
Yeah.
I mean, they're made with cheap plastic now, but
I don't know anything about cars.
But they're going up in price.
I do know that.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know. Did I explain inflation?
Yes. Now define interest rates.
Okay, first, make sure I define inflation. Tell everybody what you think inflation is.
Okay. I didn't realize there was going to be a quiz. Awesome. No, okay, so inflation is that the price is always going to go up because there's always going to be more people. And so
that's demand.
The demand is going up, but the supply is staying the same. So the price has to go up.
Yep. And if you have
inflation.
Yep. exactly. And if
crush
if
it.
the supply goes down even more, the prices will go up even
They're
more.
gonna like super
If
high
they
up.
both, if
Yeah.
demand goes up and supply goes down, that's really bad for
That's
prices.
really bad. Yeah.
So the only way to equalize it.
So, not to make this about the P word, but how could somebody think that anybody in charge of anything is? Do they think that the person is like out there watering the the trees?
the tea trees.
Like, how does that? How? So I'm not trying to like actually.
No,
be,
I get it. Yeah.
But like, how did that? Explain that thought process to me. That like, oh, this guy's in charge, so thus the prices of things are going to change.
Right. I mean, big picture, having helped 5 of my 6 kids through economics classes, it goes back to our school system of not teaching people.
Oh, really? So
like,
it's genuinely just like uneducation.
It really is,
that.
of not understanding basic economic concepts of supply and demand.
Okay.
And so a person can cause costs to make something go up or down.
Oh, okay.
So
they have control over that.
Right.
Okay.
But what's lost on that is if somebody says enough times, regulations are the reason prices are so high, people just start believing it. They don't look at the financial statements of ExxonMobil and realize that
I don't.
Their main cost is digging an oil well and paying people to dig that oil well and get oil and maintain it. Like labor costs and those maintenance costs are the primary cost.
Right.
Regulations might cost them 1 or 2% per year.
That's a small number.
And so people, when somebody says regulations are the reason they're high, everybody's like, that guy must be right.
I mean,
he's a
gotta
businessman.
be. Yeah, right.
He knows more than me.
Yeah.
But they don't understand the financials of these oil companies. The only way to decrease that price is to make it really, really cheap to get out of the ground. Well, it's very expensive to get oil out of the ground.
Right.
Which is why they didn't shut down production when nobody was driving.
I mean, that would, because that would be, I imagine that's got to be quite a bit more expensive. I mean, one, problematic because you're having these people stop working. So there's that aspect of it. And then 2, I would imagine it would be really expensive to be like, okay, stop. And now everybody start up again.
Yeah, because the oil rigs are like fine-tuned instruments that to shut it down costs a lot of money and to restart it up costs a lot of money. So
that makes sense.
So that's one reason. And then you think of other things going back to supply on grocery prices.
Crazy.
We mentioned we're tearing up farmland
Yeah.
to build houses because our population is growing.
Right.
So if you have less farmland,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what you do. You cannot demand that farmers charge less for crops.
Yeah, no.
They're going to charge more because there's less crops out there.
Exactly.
And there's higher demand. So it's just really our public education of not thinking past the talking points from both P parties. Not wanting to say that word because we don't want to be flagged.
I don't want it.
But both parties mislead the people trying to win votes.
Okay.
And it makes us forget our high school education of it's all about supply and demand.
Got it.
And you can't just magically increase demand. You can't magically increase supply.
Right.
It's gonna flow with your population, the economy.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay.
So
it's always going up. Doesn't matter which P party is.
Yeah, because the population is getting bigger, so there's more demand.
Yeah.
And shrinking supply because the population is taking up more and more of our resources.
Right.
Which creates more demand, less supply.
Got it.
So
educational, Dad.
Yeah, you can cut prices on the fringe. Again, small percents of prices, but you can't change supply and demand.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
So, which, I cut you off.
No. Yeah.
Interest rates.
Yeah. Let's tackle this one now.
So this is the other thing that's come up a lot over the last several years.
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve. Have you heard of the Federal Reserve?
I've heard of them.
The Fed, maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because it's made it into politics. Dang it, Dad. Cut that word.
Courtney, cut it in post.
It's made it into discussions around leaders. And their job at the Federal Reserve is really complicated.
Yeah.
Because They're all economists, and I've bashed them many times on my blog because
sorry, guys,
they're so short-sighted. They don't look at the big picture. They're not paid based on their performance like an investment manager is.
Spicy Dad is getting spicy.
But in general, they're very smart people. They understand.
They're smart, just short-sighted?
They're smart books. They're book smart.
Unlike Dad, who's street smart.
That's right. They've studied economies, and they, throughout history, not just the United States.
Okay.
And they understand that deflation, which is what?
Rare,
and
the opposite of inflation.
the opposite of inflation. So prices going down are actually bad for the economy.
Why?
I get that look every time. Every time I
Why?
tell. Okay, let's say we'll go back to cars. Let's say we'll use inflation. You now have $30,000.
Dude, sweet.
And you're like, I need a car.
Yeah.
And you guys go on whatever websites you go on to look for cars.
Yeah.
Since nobody's paying us to promote their websites. And you're like, oh, this car that I love is $30,000. You're like,
Sweet.
that's pretty cool. But then you log back in a week and it's $29,000.
Girl,
You're
I'm going
like,
to keep waiting.
You're going to keep waiting.
Yeah, that price is going to keep going down.
So if the price, our brains are like, cool, prices are going down.
Yeah.
So the Federal Reserve knows if prices of everything are always going down, we as humans are going to be like, well, I'm just going to wait for the sale.
Oh, and that's why it's bad for the economy, because then people aren't spending their money.
They aren't spending money and they need money to be spent.
Dad.
Early fist bump.
Early fist bump. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the job at the Federal Reserve is to try to pull levers to keep prices going up, but not too fast. Yes.
But don't, sorry if this is dumb, but aren't they the people that print the money? So, like, if you're going to make things more expensive, can you give us more money in circulation or something?
Actually, you are onto something because...
Yes, I am, intentionally.
Yep, if they want prices to go up, they literally and figuratively give people more money.
What?
So you'll remember this from back in the financial crisis. I had the little cartoon videos on the blog about printing the money and quantitative easing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we can find that video again, but that was...
Courtney, in post, throw that video up.
But they were the Fed was literally creating money to give to the banks so the banks could lend it out to try to get inflation going again. Because houses had dropped in some places 30% in value, sometimes even more.
Zing.
And that's most people's biggest asset. So we had such big housing deflation. The Federal Reserve was trying to give people more money to get prices up.
Yeah. Okay.
So yes, if they're afraid of people not spending enough money, there's two ways the Federal Reserve, two general ways, there's more that they can do to try to get people more money so that they can spend it. And the first you mentioned, they could print more money. Yeah. They could put money in circulation. Why is that in quotes?
Am I silly? Is there not actually a fancy printer?
That's technically the United States Treasury that prints your dollars.
Gotcha.
But then the Federal Reserve controls like what happens to it. There's not just dollar bills sitting around that the Federal Reserve says print more.
Go on, make more.
They basically create more electronically because everything's done banking electronically.
Okay.
So that's why printing doesn't mean they're like, ramp up the printing press.
Someone's out there
they're
just
basically
pushing
saying, hey,
print.
we would like credit for more money to be in circulation. And so now there's more money in circulation.
Bananas. Okay.
Because
that's silly.
Shoot, what cartoon was it? I should have asked the twins. We were sitting around the table one time and Tayton said something about Nixon ending the gold standard.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Oh, I know what it was. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
So by the way, the gold standard, there used to be up in the until the 70s. For every dollar out there, we had the same amount of gold in a vault.
Dad, that sounds made up.
It's not made up.
I mean, I believe you because I
70s.
trust you, but that sounds
And
silly.
so that was called the gold standard. So
Wow.
if the United States wanted more
Sorry
dollars...
if that's common knowledge. I'm over here learning this
If
for the
you
first
watched
time.
Teen Titans Go,
Stop it.
That is what Tayton said is like
hot takes. Teen Titans
10-year-old.
Go is garbage compared to the original. Hot takes. Hot takes.
Take.
Courtney, back me up. She's agreeing. She didn't react at all.
Yeah.
But she's
So
agreeing on the
anyways,
inside.
We were at dinner and Tayton said
Back to
we
it.
were somehow talking about inflation or the Fed and Tayton jumps in and he goes, "Well, didn't Nixon end the gold standard in the 70s?" And I'm like, "Where did you hear that?"
He said, what?
And it used to be, I read it in a book
Yeah, yes.
back when he read, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
And he goes, "Oh, they taught us that on Teen Titans Go."
That's hilarious.
So anyways, backing up, they don't print money anymore like that.
Okay.
They basically print enough to have in circulation
Okay.
for people still using cash.
Oh, yeah, and I guess that's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, because now banks
So
just credit each other electronically. Like Bank A says, "Oh, Corinne spent $7 at Starbucks
Too much.
on this card."
Yeah.
And so Starbucks Bank goes to your bank and they just credit each other on the
Oh.
computer, like crosses.
So no money's actually being moved.
No,
it's
it's
just
not a truck.
numbers.
Yeah,
It's zeros and ones on the internet.
basically.
This is weird.
So that's, I don't know. I guess it's kind of part of the topic. But backing up,
Yeah.
they can create more money electronically. The Fed can. If
Okay.
they want to give you more money so prices go up. Because they want you to spend money.
Because they want me to spend it.
But they don't give it to you.
They don't have to convince me very hard. I'll
They
spend
don't.
it.
They give it to the banks.
Okay. Unfortunately, that'll take a little bit more finessing because then I have to get the okay from Dustin to get a loan or something, right?
There you go. So, our favorite movie.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Correct. So,
I was hoping we could talk about this.
I mean, we're only a few months late, but
It's fine.
so my
This is just-
favorite movie, favorite scene because
Yeah.
it explains banking perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
George
remember,
has just finished saying that he doesn't want to get married.
no,
Cut to-
jump past that.
Cut to
him
their
getting
wedding.
married. And it was the early 1930s when we were
Yep.
having the Great Depression and the stock market had crashed.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, Potter had loaned money to Bailey Building and Loan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Potter, knowing that it was a crisis and George was getting married and he wanted to buy the bank,
He's such a
basically said, "I'm calling the loan, which means you have to pay me
Yeah.
all the money you owe me
Yeah.
today."
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
yeah. So George being gone, his
Yep.
uncle just is like, "All right, here you go, Potter.
Here we go, Potter.
Here's all our money." Well, then Potter shuts down his bank, so the
Yeah.
town has no money, and they didn't have debit cards back then.
Right.
And so everybody's like, "Well, I'm going to go to Bailey Building and Loan because they're open on a Saturday,
Yeah, get my money back.
and I'm going to get cash because Potter's going to be closed for a week."
Yeah.
And so, because they have no dollars in the bank, the bank's like, "Hey, we can't give you your money
Yeah.
because we don't keep all your money in the bank.
Right.
We lend that out
Mm-hmm.
to basically multiply that money.
Right.
You know, your money is in his house and his house and his
Yeah, when
house."
George is explaining that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, his wife comes to the rescue and is like, basically, this is what would be called the reserve.
I've got all this
Yeah.
cash.
And so she says, "We got
She's so
cash,"
cute.
and they dole it out
Yeah.
so people can get by and they can continue making their loan payments.
Yes.
So what the Federal Reserve can do,
They're Mary.
they would basically be Mary,
Okay.
except Mary with unlimited resources, because Mary couldn't just go,
That's true. Yeah.
"Here is $2,000.
Right.
How much would you like?"
Wow. Tom would have been really happy.
Yeah. Jerk Tom.
You better have watched the movie. Otherwise, you don't get it.
No.
It's for only the cool
I have
kids reference.
212.
In my, I'll take that much.
Yeah.
Such a butthead.
Was it? I need $17.80.
He said something ridiculous. Yeah.
Anyways, so the Federal Reserve can basically electronically credit everybody
Okay.
so that the banks can then give money out to people at lower prices so that they can keep spending and push prices up.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one way. The Federal Reserve can create money.
Yes.
But they
Digital.
don't do that as often. They did do it in 2008 through 2012-ish. And they did it again during COVID. Because
because they wanted
those
people
were
to
a
spend those
crisis.
monies.
It was like the
Gotcha.
crash, like the Depression, where everything was
Okay.
ground to a halt.
Yeah.
So they took these emergency measures to basically be Mary
Yeah.
and say, like, "I have $2,000.
Right.
You guys, here's money for you for for a loan. What the Federal Reserve does more often is they can lower interest rates. Interest rate is the money you pay for a loan.
Okay.
So I don't think we ever charged you interest.
Thank you.
But Tayton would have.
Yes, he would have.
So I give you $100 and you say, well, I'll pay you back in a year. And I say, well, that'll be 5% interest.
Tell me
so you would have to pay me $100 plus $5 in interest.
Oh, okay.
So the cost of that money was $105.
Oh, okay.
Credit cards have interest payments. Okay. We talked about that in the one episode where they're charging like 20 to 24% sometimes.
Yeah.
Car loans have interest.
Yeah.
Your mortgage that we talked about, that's all interest.
Yeah.
So what's misleading is the Federal Reserve has an interest rate policy that they set, but the Federal Reserve is in charge of the banks. And so this interest rate they charge is basically what they call overnight lending. So let's say Bailey Building and Loan,
okay,
is now in the 21st century, and they have computers. No more like strings around your finger.
I know.
So cute. So now they have computers.
Okay,
and they're taking debit cards.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, they're like, oh, shoot. Everybody spent $3,000 in total yesterday. Mm-hmm. And we only have $2,000 to send out to the banks. The Federal Reserve can loan money overnight or up to a week to Bailey Building and Loan and say, we're going to charge you 3% on that loan.
Okay. Okay.
So that makes it so money can flow back and forth easier.
Got it.
So if the Federal Reserve wants more spending, they want the banks to be loose.
Okay.
Like be like, hey, we don't care how much you're spending. You
spend it. Yeah.
We'll cover your overdraft.
Okay.
They will lower their interest rate that they charge to the banks so that the banks kind of are looser with their money.
Okay. If the Federal Reserve can just like make more money from nothing, why the interest rates? Why are they like, give us more? They can get their own.
Because if you had too much money out there.
Deflation.
Nope. Too much money. Really big demand. What does that do to prices?
Skyrocket.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, circling back, sorry, Courtney. The inflation of 2021 and 2022. Uh-huh. It wasn't the Federal Reserve was doing stuff for the banks.
Okay.
But the U.S. government, both the 45th president and the 46th president, signed bills that sent basically all Americans checks. Do you remember those checks in 2020 and 2021?
Yes.
Everybody got checks.
No, that wasn't a loan though, wasn't it?
No, that was like, free money.
Here you go.
That was government saying, we passed this bill to send everybody money.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Federal Reserve. It was Congress and the president.
So the president does have some control.
They do. But what happened was, remember, we couldn't drive anywhere.
Right.
Most people who could work from a laptop kept their job.
Yeah.
People on Social Security still got their Social Security checks.
Yeah.
Now they had excess money.
Right.
So it was like the government saying, here's $3,000. Do with it whatever you want.
Okay.
So they hopped on Amazon.
Yeah.
They went to Home Depot.
Yeah.
Because Home Depot is somehow essential.
Yeah.
They stayed open all through COVID.
You're absolutely right.
And Lowe's. And so they went there and they spent money on their house, and they spent the money because it was free money. Mm-hmm. And then the supply could not keep up with demand. So prices went way up. Remember Amazon?
Yes.
Like all your stuff would get back ordered, and
yeah, that was nuts.
It's like, we canceled your delivery because we don't have it.
So rude.
And so because of that, because the government gave everybody so much money, we had ridiculous inflation.
Gotcha. Okay, I see.
And as that money's filtered through the system, inflation's come back down to now 2 or 3%. So that's why the Federal Reserve doesn't just say, here's a bunch of money.
Got it. Okay.
They instead give it to the banks to decide who needs the money.
Okay. That makes sense.
Just like, Potter doesn't want to give money to anybody, but George was lending it but at least the bank was the one deciding you deserve the money, you don't.
Yeah.
Versus the government sending everybody a check. So that's why the Federal Reserve doesn't just create a whole bunch of money. So they try to just tweak things to say, hey, George, be a little bit looser with your loans.
Yeah.
We're going to make it easier for you to get money from us and cheaper.
Okay.
But remember, that's only loans between the Federal Reserve and the bank. Okay. The bank does not have to necessarily say, I'm going to charge less on your house. Because if the Federal Reserve is worried about the economy, that probably means it's harder for somebody to meet their mortgage payment because maybe they're going to lose a job.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the real disconnect people are having right now.
Yeah.
Is the Federal Reserve has cut their interest rates by 1%. After raising them to try to fight inflation. Because they wanted to pull money out of the system and make it harder to spend money.
Right.
Now they said, well, maybe we went too far. We want the banks to loosen up.
Okay.
So they've pulled it back to by 1% now. But the Bailey Building and Loans are looking at people and saying, I don't know if they can make their car payment or their house payment.
Yeah.
So they aren't lowering their interest rates. And in fact, banks are concerned that maybe we're going to have really high inflation again, which will hurt the economy.
Dang it.
So mortgage rates are still 7%.
Yeah.
And they were during COVID when you guys refinanced, and most people who could,
Yep.
like 2.5%.
Like crazy low. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I want us to buy a new house. And Dustin's like, but our mortgage is so low right now.
Yeah, because that's interest that you would pay the bank.
Yeah.
And that 4.5% interest extra. Plus, houses have had inflation.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes, they have.
So not only would you'd be able to sell your house for more money, but you'd have to buy a house.
Courtney's over there throwing
at the
stuff.
same money. So
yeah,
what I'm getting at is the Fed can try to control inflation with their levers. But the banks,
love that they're just like.
I mean,
every time you say
dials.
levers, I'm just like it's like Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
It's just like wrong lever, gronk.
Maybe dials, like we want to turn it up a little and turn it down.
Okay.
But they can't force the banks.
I prefer levers.
Because the banks are free to make decisions.
Oh, okay. Potter would not like that.
He would. Well, he does like that.
Oh.
Potter would keep charging high interest rate. He wouldn't want the government coming in and telling him what to do.
No, that's true. I meant more so like the banks making their own decisions.
Right.
He would want to have that control.
Yeah, he does like that. Yeah. So that's interest rates between banks have come down.
Okay.
But that also means your savings account rates have come down.
Yeah.
But if you want to borrow money to buy a car or a house, that will not come down until the banks are confident that the economy is going to be doing well. So everybody's going to keep their jobs. And so they're two separate things.
Okay. This one's still more confusing than inflation, but I think I understand it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Please don't quiz me.
Well, we'll do it before we close this up and do a recap.
Yeah.
The thing to take away is just because the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates does not mean your credit cards, your house, or your car is going to see lower interest rates.
Different interest rates.
Right.
Okay.
The Federal Reserve only loans money back and forth to banks. It's up to the banks to feel confident that Ernie's taxi job is going to still be in place.
Yeah.
Because if the economy is getting worse and Ernie's not getting the fares, then he's not going to be able to pay back his loan.
Right.
So the bank charges a high interest rate to Ernie.
Yeah.
So the Fed is trying to get things going without sending everybody a bunch of money and causing too much inflation.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about housing in one of these episodes coming up.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest pain point I've seen people have is they're like, I thought the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates. Why are mortgages still 7%?
Oh, because they're different interest rates.
Correct.
I did learn something.
You did. So Potter and George get to decide the interest rate.
Yes.
The Federal Reserve will loan money to George overnight to cover so they don't have to use their honeymoon money.
Right. Okay.
Is that
a
little better?
Yeah, it does. That makes a lot more sense. I like our It's a Wonderful Life references.
I could talk about that. We should do a rewatch next Christmas.
Oh, Courtney, write it down.
Write it down. We can literally do budgeting and finance from It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
All right, write it down for November, Courtney. We'll do a full rewatch of It's a Wonderful Life. So,
I love it.
What did we talk about today, Courtney?
Yeah, let's have our list.
Episode 7.
Episode 7. All right, so we talked inflation, interest rates. Wow, roughly 3 minutes. Start time. Nice. That's when we started this up. That's good to know, Courtney.
By the way, the feedback we got from people was we just end it without recapping. And we don't have a script, so
no, I was like,
we told Courtney to write down what we talked about.
Script us real time. All right, so we did define inflation. We talked about tea trees and gas trees.
And gas trees.
All right, and then we covered what deflation was and how rare it is.
Deflation?
The opposite of inflation.
Perfect.
We did not talk about the P word at all, obviously. But we did say that one person can't change prices. Mm-hmm. We went over hidden or shrinkflation.
Yep.
And then we did talk a lot about supply and demand.
Yes.
And how that correlates.
And I think the supply and demand is the number one. If you leave with nothing, it's understand supply and demand and what it does to prices.
Yeah. All right. And then we finally got to start talking about interest rates.
Yes.
And this is where my whole brain went cloudy for just so long.
We may have to redo it. We'll give us feedback. If it's still cloudy, we'll do another shorter version on just interest rates.
Or even a longer version, just somehow more in detail.
We'll flip the camera and do a whiteboard.
There you go. Get out a whiteboard.
Yeah.
So we went over the Federal Reserve and how they're printing money, but that printing is in quotes because it's all electronic. Talked about the gold standard. Is that what you said it was called? Gold standard. I'm so smart.
We critiqued Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans Go, yeah. The free money during COVID.
Yep.
Talked
and
about
what that did with inflation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Bad inflation was that supply couldn't keep up with the demand.
Correct. Yep.
Yep. And then why the Fed doesn't just give out money.
Yeah.
Because it would break everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. We also talked about banks making decisions.
Not the Fed. Yep.
Not the Fed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like last thing, just because the Fed lowers interest rates doesn't mean your interest rates will change. It's up to the banks.
Perfect. Good recap.
Great recap, Courtney. Courtney.
Recap. All right, that's all right.
Sorry
Cut
about
it in
that.
post.
Courtney, edit that in post.
All right, episode 7 done.
Yeah, I think we're done.
All right. I don't know what we'll talk about in episode 8. We do have a feedback link, questions, comments.
Yes.
Let us know because we want this to be unscripted and just be really organic in conversations that we have. And this is something we've talked about a lot you know, in our household and family day. And so,
yeah.
Oh, nice job.
Nice job, Dan. Nice.